So introducing Dustin, and Dustin Shau is head of product at Gatsby. He is originally from Iowa, and I've just learned that his hometown apparently is known for castles, which I would not have guessed for Iowa, but apparently there's a lot of castle architecture and interest there, so you can ask him about it later. Dustin has worked with open source for a while and JavaScript. He's very passionate about making those communities better. And he also doesn't like cheese, which the one saving grace is he has learned to make an exception for pizza. So he's not that bad. So with that, Dustin.
Thanks for that intro, Linda. So yeah, I am weird, apparently. So what I'm going to be talking about today is Gatsby and Gatsby Cloud. So kind of like what's new and then what's next. And I think to kind of chart the path for where we're going to go next, I think it's helpful to kind of reflect on where we are, like what brought this community together, and then what brought me to Gatsby. And so I'm certainly interested in hearing all of your stories as well. So first, just another quick kind of intro. Dustin Shau, head of product, previously and always open source team. I live in Mountain View, California. I moved from my tiny little 2,000 person town in Iowa, weirdest town in the world, and I'm engaged to a triplet. You'll see more about this. So, you know, all of us in this room, you know, it's like truly incredible that, you know, Gatsby brought us all here. And so I'd like you to like take a moment and reflect on like what about Gatsby, you know, made you enter this community? Was it the tool itself? Is it the community itself? Is it performance? Is it developer experience? Is it all of these factors kind of coalescing? You know, like think hard on like what brought you here, and I'll have a call to action at the end. So what brought me to Gatsby? So what brought me to Gatsby was the open source tool. So the two pillars of performance and developer experience, these are just incredible, and you know, it's why I choose Gatsby. So performance, the performance of the resulting site. You know, you get those hundreds in Lighthouse out of the box by using Gatsby. You get this performant baseline so that, you know, your next application, your current application with Gatsby is as fast and as optimized as possible. Writing in React, I actually learned GraphQL through Gatsby, which is like super cool. So I think of Gatsby as this like playground to learn React, to learn GraphQL, to learn Node, and like learn all of these great new tools. And then finally, the ultimate developer experience. Developer experience is kind of this like loosey-goosey, like, you know, what is it actually type thing. But so with Gatsby, it's like, you know, great error messages, you know, the like graphical interface. That's like an amazing way to like learn GraphQL by like dragging and dropping, clicking around, and, you know, exposing the ultimate query that you then paste into Gatsby. And then finally, just, you know, it's still to this day is one of the coolest things of writing React code, writing GraphQL, parsing that GraphQL from all of these different, you know, disparate data sources, Contentful, WordPress, Drupal, et cetera, and then compiling this incredible optimized application. So that's what brought me here. I wrote a blog about using Gatsby with Gatsby, DM'd it to Kyle, and, you know, the rest is history. So again, think about what brought you to Gatsby. What do you really love about Gatsby, and how can we do more of that? So from this perspective, you know, we kind of think about, like, what actually is Gatsby's product? What are we building here? Is it Gatsby open source? You know, is it the open source community? Is it the 3,000 contributors that Kyle was referring to? Is it everyone in this room? You know, is this Gatsby's product? Is it Gatsby Cloud? Is it this cloud platform that makes using the open source product better and easier for teams? Is it, you know, excellent documentation? Is it this first-class documentation experience so that when you use any of Gatsby's product offerings, you're set up for success from the beginning? I contend it's all of these things. Really what makes Gatsby Gatsby is the coalescing of all of these different pieces of the Gatsby experience. And you know, what we're building is all of these together. Gatsby's product is Gatsby, the open source tool. Cloud product uses the open source tool. It's excellently documented, and so when you're using cloud or open source tool, you are set up for success right from the get-go. And so I think these are the hallmarks of what makes a compelling product experience and what keeps me at Gatsby. So I like these kind of like lofty statements. So we plan to make Gatsby the definitive way to build for the web. When we harken back to like what brought me to Gatsby, what brought me to Gatsby is that this is the way that I want to make all my websites going forward. I knew it from like day one. I'm like, this is how I want to structure my applications. I want to use these great plugins. I want to use these tools that I know and love, like React, GraphQL, and Node. And I want my users to have an excellent experience using the resulting compiled, optimized application. So when we think about what makes a good product, you kind of double down on what your users love, and then you also smooth the edges of this experience. And so what can we do better at? There's a lot. So again, to like hone in on what we can do better of, I think there's like a key kind of like mission statement. So we can make Gatsby the fastest, most inclusive platform for building for the web. So when we think of the fastest, I think of performance, of course. So I think of performance of the resulting application and build time performance. When we talk about inclusivity, I think of accessibility, making Gatsby the most accessible framework by default, so that this application that you're creating is not only the fastest, but also the most accessible. And we think this is the way applications should and can be built with Gatsby. So Kyle is doing this as well. So I'd like to kind of call out some people at Gatsby in a positive way. So Peter, who I believe may be here, there he is. He is a performance expert. His express task is to make Gatsby open source, faster, and better. So as an example, there was like a 150,000 page site that took a couple hours to build. Peter's gotten to build in 3 minutes. So tangible improvement in the open source product. We want Gatsby and then the developer experience of using Gatsby to be as fast as possible, and that includes the build time. Ward Peters, I know Ward's here. Ward's amazing. Ward is an expert in kind of like runtime performance, so Webpack, Lighthouse, like all things in Ward's purview. And in 2020, we'll be doing things like performance budgets, improving that Gatsby runtime so that it's even faster than we think is possible. And yeah, so these are certainly initiatives that we're doubling down on. So my call to action here is, if these are things near and dear to your heart, if you have a very large Gatsby application, if you want your Gatsby application to be even faster, talk to these two. They're here. Part of the value of this conference is that we can kind of learn from each other. So go talk to these experts in their field and kind of let them know how we can improve as well. So Madeline Parker and then Marcy Sutton. So Madeline is an accessibility expert. She recently shipped a PR that improves screen reading support for single-page apps, which is a surprisingly and shockingly hard endeavor. And so I'll be demoing that in a little bit. But kudos to Madeline for implementing that, and then kudos to Marcy for kind of doing some discovery work and kind of identifying that we can make Gatsby more accessible. And so again, we want Gatsby to be the fastest and most inclusive platform for building your applications. And how we do it is, we need you. So we use Madeline, use Marcy as resources, talk to them about accessibility, let them know pain points that you've struggled with, or things that you think have gone quite well with Gatsby, because this is our goal. Again, we want to be the definitive platform for building applications, and how we do that is kind of reconstructing what the web could be. The web should be performant, the web should be accessible, and we strongly, strongly believe that. Finally, blazing new trails for the modern content web. So I think of this kind of like Gatsby's R&D wing. So these three folks, who I believe are all here, John O'Tander, Brent Jackson, and Max Stoiber, are kind of, I think it's Max's literally first day, so welcome, Max, welcome to the show. But these three are kind of tasked with, what could the web be? What are the kind of, techniques, tools, things like theme UI, things like blocks UI that Kyle was showing, MDX. These are kind of all themes, of course. These are things that these three are tasked with, and they're helping redefine what the web could be and what like the modern web experience for the modern web developer really looks like. So definitely check out these tools they're building. We think they're the future of the web. And again, I'm kind of like a broken record here. Talk to them. Talk to them about your usage of theme UI, blocks UI, MDX, etc. I'm sure they'd love to hear it. And then finally, cloud. So cloud enables us to improve on these base experiences, this base open source product for teams. And so I'll be doing a brief demo of Gatsby Cloud in a little bit. So I don't actually know if Abi's here, but Abi is kind of the cloud tech lead, and then Alexi is designing are implementing the front end with an excellent team here. So if you're users of Gatsby Cloud, which, as I hope to show at the end of this, you should be, definitely talk to them about your experience with using Cloud. So our ultimate plan here is we want to make the web meaningfully better for everyone. We think we have the right people, we think we have the right product, and we think we have the right community to help shape this product, to help shape this tool into this lofty vision of becoming the default definitive way to build applications for the web. So I've been doing a lot of telling. I haven't been doing that much showing. So I'd like to do a quick demo. All right, so first I'm just going to kind of show what I've been building. So I am getting married in August. So I've been building my website with Gatsby. As you imagine, kind of harkens back like, this is the way I want to build my websites. I'm actually dog fooding. I am a user of Gatsby. I love Gatsby. And so I've been using Gatsby. It's powered by Contentful. And so you can kind of scroll through. We have some nice masonry grid components, nice little medium-like image zoom. How cool. And then, of course, I'm using Gatsby Cloud to build and deploy my application. So what I'm going to show today is some of the features that you get with Gatsby Cloud, particularly Gatsby Builds, and the kind of workflow experience that you can expect with using Gatsby Cloud. So the very first thing I want to do is I want to add a new photo to my gallery. So I have this collection. It's a content type of gallery, and I'm going to add a new picture. So my best man is my brother, so I'll add a picture of him. And of course, as brothers are known to do, one sec. Cool. The resolution of this monitor is not great. There we go. Whoops. All right, so this is a picture of Austin, and we'll see on the website in a second. So I'm uploading this 2 megabyte file. It's huge. All right, and then after Contentful finishes processing, I'll go ahead and publish this. All right, so we'll publish, and then we'll go back to Gatsby Cloud, and you see that we've automatically triggered a Gatsby Cloud build. So, as Kyle was mentioning, Builds is our continuous deployment solution. We can specialize because we control this open source product, because we can tap into this open source product, we can do builds of Gatsby applications faster than any other continuous deployment solution. So, if you haven't read Kyle's blog post, check it out. But you'll oftentimes see consistent 2.5 times improvements in build times compared to other continuous deployment solutions, and then up to 60x in certain cases. So this build should take around a minute or so. Excuse me, 34 seconds. And now it's live. So we go through, we see our wedding party, and one sec. Should be down here. Weird. Anyways, so let me talk through this in more detail too. So with Gatsby, like I mentioned, some of the pillars of what makes Gatsby Gatsby is performance and then developer experience. What we've oftentimes seen is that, as developers are known to do, they'll implement more features, and they won't really track on performance of the runtime application as a result. And so what we do with Builds is we have a report service that's using Lighthouse. And so every single PR, every single build gets this Lighthouse report so that you can keep performance at the forefront of your mind when you're using Gatsby. So I'm actually a little salty about this, that's not 100, so I'll go fix this after this demo. but you can see that across the board, 100, 100. I need to beef my SEO up. I'll maybe do that after this. But so yeah, you can keep performance at the forefront. You won't drop performance because you'll actually be looking at these reports and tracking on performance because it is a super important thing. We give you the baseline. We make building applications, building performant applications easy by default. And this allows you to keep that performance baseline up, as you'd expect. All right, so I'm going to show a few more things. So one really cool thing about Gatsby Builds is that, Gatsby in general, is it can take inputs. It can take Contentful, WordPress, et cetera, and then create a performant application as a result. Gatsby Builds can then take these outputs of this build and then deploy them to 5 CDNs. So I'm going to use Netlify. it is a great CDN. So we'll go ahead, I'll hook it up with Netlify. And so what this will do is that we'll build your application in the cloud, think of the continuous deployment solution, faster than others, and then we'll deploy it to wherever you want your content to live. So in this case, I'll select my Netlify team. I already have a site, so I'll select my account. And then I will select my Maggie and Dustin website, which is here. And so now every time a cloud build is triggered, it will then build this application and then deploy to Netlify faster than really anyone else can. And I also figured out why it wasn't working. I didn't publish the changes. There we go. So now we can show that photo. So I want to do a couple more things. So I want to show the workflow experience as a developer. So I'll go through and implement a nice accessibility feature that I should have already implemented. And then I'll commit that and show how Gatsby Builds can deploy that faster than anyone else can. So while this is deploying, I've kind of been talking about accessibility a lot. And so when you think of accessible users, one of the key ones I think of is like how keyboard navigable is my application. And one way that you can make it more keyboard navigable and more friendly to these types of users is with the notion of a skip nav. So a skip nav is a button that's hidden, triggered on tab, and it'll skip to your main content so that your users don't have to kind of tab through these 4 to 5 to 6 navigation items. So here I'm going to use Reach UI. So I'll import skip nav link from @reach skip nav. I will also import the styles so that it doesn't show, or so that it doesn't show by default. And then I will use this skip nav link component right before my navigation component. All right, so let's save this. This updates. Oops. We skipped to content, and I haven't implemented it yet. So now I need to actually provide the component that the skip to content link will link to. So who likes, I'm going to copy and paste because I don't want to retype, because why would I? We'll implement a skip nav content. This skip nav content takes children, and we'll wrap them in a div with an ID that will then be linked to from that skip nav link. We'll render this for the content. We'll save this. And then now we skip to content, and it scrolls right to where we want. Actually, I want it to go up one. So now now we've improved our accessibility. We've made it more friendly to keyboard users. And we click through, skip to content, and it gets right to where we want. So this is a great accessibility improvement that you can enable with Gatsby really easily. So let's go ahead and let's push this to Git. I'm not going to say store, I'm going to say fix, improve accessibility with skip nav component. I typoed it, that's fine. We'll push to master, do PR stuff, and then we'll see that this comes through in just one sec. And so we're listening to webhooks from GitHub, and so on this master push, we'll keep the state around. We'll build this application quicker than anyone else can, and then we'll deploy to Netlify. So you can see here my last build. We have a Lighthouse report. It deployed in 1:28, and it also deployed to Netlify. So I want to show one more thing. Well, first of all, I want to just validate that it did actually show up. So there's that picture I was hoping for. World's okay, his brother. All right, and then finally, I want to talk through that recent screen reader improvement. So
accessibility options.
I'm going to go ahead and enable voiceover. And so this is the stuff that I was referring to earlier. So chill. We want Gatsby to be the most performant and the most accessible by default. We don't want developers to have to think about these things. We want that accessible baseline, that performant baseline, so that just by using Gatsby, you get an excellent experience that all of your users, whoever your users are, can use and appreciate. And so this is the work that we were doing
Visit
earlier,
link.
that I was mentioning
Gatsby
earlier.
Dustin.
We've
Navigation.
improved
Chrome has new
navigation,
window.
so Gatsby is a
You
single
are
page
currently
app,
on a link.
and it'll
To
now
click this link,
announce route
press Control
changes.
Option Space.
So
Visited link.
you can see
Details.
I'm on
List
the
four items.
details link.
You are
It's letting me
currently on a
know
link. Visited
I'm
link.
on the wedding party link,
Visited link.
our story
Our
link,
story.
and then when we
You
actually
are currently
navigate,
on our navigated
we've
to our
navigated to
story.
our
Wedding.
story.
Maggie and Dustin.
And
You are
so,
currently on web content.
this is
Web
a
Press Control
meaningful
Option
improvement
Shift down
to the
arrow.
way that users use a Gatsby application from an accessibility perspective. And this is kind of hearkening back to what I think of as Gatsby's product. Our product is the resulting application. Our product is the best possible application for the most number of users. And so this is really what I think of as key values of Gatsby that are currently and will always be important. This is kind of to harken back to one of Kyle's things. It's like, what if WordPress was built in 2020? It's like, what if websites were built in 2020? Like what should a website in 2020 look like? And this is our vision for what we think websites should be by default.
Application.
All right, just want to validate it built out so I can show how fast it was. All right, that most recent build took 41 seconds, which is pretty incredible. So compare and contrast other continuous deployment solutions, takes 4 to 5 to 6 minutes. This is a relatively small application, but that's a meaningful chunk of time that you can spend building out your application, building out that great experience for your end users, and not waiting on deploys. So I have another little anecdote. So I was actually building this website with my fiance, and so it's a Saturday night. She was next to me. We were editing things in Contentful. And she's like, why isn't it published yet? Why do I have to wait for it? And so I'm like, Maggie, you're pulling the product out of Gatsby. This is where we're going. So builds right now are compelling. They're faster than anyone else's continuous deployment solution. Our commitment is that we want the fastest builds in the cloud. Kyle was referring to like 10 seconds. I think that we want builds to just be a thing you don't even think about anymore. You trigger a content publish, you trigger a source publish, a build happens, it's instantly available around the world, wherever your users are, with this performant, accessible baseline that Gatsby provides. So again, this is the way we think the web should be built. This is how cloud, open source, learning, accessibility, all of these coalesce to create this truly compelling, amazing product. So, like I said, I think I've kind of been hammering this on the head a little bit. Our product is the performant and accessible web for everyone. We're building it together, and then you can help us shape it. So earlier, when I was referring to all of these people, you have nearly the entirety of the Gatsby team here. I'd like you to kind of think of 3 things to talk about. Number 1, when we think back on my anecdote, what brought you to Gatsby? What do you love about Gatsby? Let us know so that we can double down and make those experiences even better. Secondarily, what do you maybe not love about Gatsby? What do you think could be improved? What are those struggles, pain points, or frustrations? The things that you're kind of pulling your hair out, and you're like, why does this not work the way it should work? Let us know those, because we want to kind of smooth those edges and make Gatsby as great as possible for everyone. And then number 3, let us know what we're missing. If there's a functionality, a feature, a thing that you think should be included by default for everyone, let us know. We're here to learn from our community, to build this community up, and then again, to make this platform for building for the web the way that we think the web should be built. So, thank you. That's all I got.